I want to open my grandmother's kitchen drawer for you. Not literally, but picture it. Rubber bands saved from the mail, twist ties, a coffee can full of loose change, and tucked in the back, a stack of envelopes with words written on them in pen. Light bill, groceries, just in case. That drawer wasn't cute. That drawer was a system, and it worked better than half the budgeting apps on your phone right now. Here's what I keep coming back to, though. Nobody sat my grandmother down and taught her that system in some formal way. It was just how things were done. And nobody sat me down and told me it was gone either. It just quietly disappeared, one convenience at a time, one tap to pay, one saved card number, one button at checkout. Technology didn't make us worse with money. It just made spending so frictionless that we stopped noticing we were doing it. And when something stops requiring effort, it also stops requiring thought. Hey, it's Annie. So today I want to talk about the habits that quietly vanished like that. The ones our grandparents just did, without a spreadsheet, without a course, without anyone calling it a system. And how bringing even a few of them back can change more than you'd expect. Let's start with the one that quietly wrecks more people than anything else on this list: the car. Somewhere along the way, upgrading your car every few years became a completely normal thing to do, almost expected. New model comes out, your lease is up, why not? A car is not a personality trait. It's a box that gets you from one place to another. And every time you trade up, you're paying a fee just for the privilege of driving something newer. I know someone who's driven the same reliable little sedan for 11 years. It's not exciting. It's got a dent in the bumper she never bothered fixing. But she hasn't had a car payment in 7 of those 11 years. And that boring decision has quietly funneled thousands of dollars into her savings instead of into a dealership's pocket. Meanwhile, I've watched people trade in cars that were still perfectly fine, just to avoid feeling behind. The real cost of a car isn't the sticker price. It's how many years you keep resetting the clock. Keep the thing running. Drive it longer than feels exciting. And that idea, using what works instead of chasing what's new, actually threads through almost everything on this list. Which brings me to cash. And I want to explain this differently than you might expect. It's not really about cash hurting more to spend. It's about friction. When you pay with cash, there's a natural ceiling. You physically cannot spend more than what's in your hand. Digital money doesn't have that ceiling. It feels limitless because in the moment, it kind of is. You can tap a card without ever really confronting the number. Cash forces a pause. You have to count it, hand it over, watch the amount in your hand get smaller. That pause is doing something a debit card never will. It's slowing you down long enough to actually think. You don't need to go full cash only. Just pick your leak categories. For most people, that's eating out or random Amazon purchases or that one gas station snack habit we all pretend we don't have, and pull that specific amount out in cash at the start of the month. When it's gone, you stop. Actually, where the bigger picture comes in. Because this same pattern, spending without noticing, is showing up everywhere right now. Credit card debt in this country just crossed $1 trillion. Buy now, pay later use has jumped by more than 50% in just a few years. And it's not because people are careless. It's because every checkout button is designed to remove exactly the kind of friction we just talked about. No pause, no counting, just one click and it's handled. Our grandparents didn't have more willpower than us. They just had more friction built into their daily lives, and that friction was quietly protecting them. Let's talk about safety nets for a second, because this is a mistake I see even really smart, financially savvy people make. They invest aggressively, which is great, but they don't keep any actual cash set aside separately for emergencies. So when something breaks, they end up selling investments at the worst possible time just to cover it. Let me give you a real example.
A woman I know had her water heater die and her car need a new transmission within the same month.
But she had 6 months of expenses sitting in a boring savings account, completely separate from her investments. She paid for both repairs in cash, didn't sell a single share, and her retirement account kept growing untouched the whole time, right through a period when the market happened to dip. If she hadn't had that fund, she would have been forced to sell investments low at the worst possible moment just to fix a water heater. That's the entire point of an emergency fund. It's not there to grow. It's there to absorb the blow, so nothing else has to. Now, a habit that's less about spending and more about steadiness: retirement contributions. Here's how I think about it. Imagine two neighbors both planting a tree the same week. One waters it every single day, rain or shine, doesn't overthink it, just shows up. The other waters it in bursts, floods it for 2 weeks, forgets about it for a month, panics, digs it up to replant it somewhere better. 10 years later, guess which tree is taller? It's never the one that got the most attention. It's the one that got the steadiest attention. Retirement accounts work exactly like that. The people who quietly win aren't the ones chasing the perfect fund or panic moving their money every time the news gets scary. They're the ones who set a contribution and let it run for a decade without touching it. Boring, consistent, unglamorous. And it works. Here's a habit that wasn't around in our grandparents' era, but honestly, I think they'd approve of it. Give yourself 48 hours before buying anything non-essential over a certain amount. Doesn't matter if it's $50 or $500. Pick your number. See something you want, add it to your cart, and just wait 2 days. No app, no willpower trick, just time. Half the time, the excitement fades before the 48 hours are even up, and you realize you didn't actually want the thing. You wanted the feeling of buying something. This one habit alone has saved me more money than any budgeting spreadsheet ever has. And letting kids actually see money decisions happen, watching you choose between two things based on need, not impulse, teach more than any lesson ever could. Here's what I really want you to sit with, though. Nobody builds real wealth in one dramatic moment. There's no single decision, no lucky break, no perfect year that changes everything. It's the opposite, actually. It's the grocery list you stuck to on a random Tuesday. It's the transfer that quietly moved money before you could spend it. It's the car you kept for one more year instead of trading it in. None of those moments feel significant while they're happening. You don't feel richer the day you wait 48 hours before buying something. You just feel a little more in control. But stack enough of those unremarkable days together, year after year, and they quietly become the difference between two people with the same income living completely different lives 20 years from now. Wealth isn't loud. It's not built in a headline moment. It's built in the ordinary Tuesdays nobody's watching. Something else changed for me when I started looking at money this way. I stopped asking, can I afford this? And started asking, what habit does this decision strengthen? Those are two completely different questions. Almost anyone can afford something once. The harder question is whether buying it makes your future a little stronger or a little weaker. Every financial choice leaves behind a habit. Sometimes it teaches you to pause. Sometimes it teaches you to spend without thinking. Those lessons don't disappear after one purchase. They quietly become your default. Our grandparents probably never imagined we'd have phones that could buy almost anything in seconds. But I think they would recognize something that hasn't changed at all. Every dollar still represents a choice between today and tomorrow, between comfort now and freedom later. That you don't have to rebuild every habit overnight. Pick one, just one. Maybe it's waiting 48 hours before buying something.
Maybe it's driving your current car a little longer. Maybe it's setting up an automatic transfer after your next paycheck. Small decisions feel insignificant in the moment, but repeated often enough, they become the story your finances tell years from now. That's how real wealth usually grows, not through one brilliant decision, but through hundreds of ordinary ones that nobody else notices. So tell me down in the comments, which one of these habits are you actually going to bring back this week? If this helped you see money a little differently, hit subscribe, because on Annie Invests, we're going to keep digging into the real, unglamorous habits that actually build wealth.